Bickley and Marotta Mornings. Arizona Sports, the local sports leader. Bickley Blast.
With all the recent talk of feet, you might think Quentin Tarantino was writing the script about Kyler Murray's return to the Cardinals, but ask yourself this. If the Cardinals were really looking to evaluate Murray here and now, if they were really hell-bent on making a final decision after this season is over, would they really be overhauling his footwork? Would they really be making him take snaps with his left foot forward and not his right foot, adding another obstacle in his path after returning from knee surgery? That's why the more and more I think about this, the more and more it seems like the Cardinals are committed to Murray next season, regardless of what transpires, even if they end up with the number 1 overall pick in the draft, because they cannot properly or fairly evaluate him now under all these conditions and moving pieces. Granted, that would not be good news for a heavy percentage of football fans in the Valley, people who want Kyler gone, the ones who believe Kyler will never succeed because he's 5'10" and that no matter what he does, he cannot grow in the way that matters most. Now, it would certainly help the civic mood if Murray can elevate his play over the final 5 starts, including Sunday afternoon in Pittsburgh, but I'm not sure it matters to those making the decisions because the new regime seems committed to seeing the good in Kyler Murray, something that's become increasingly difficult outside of team headquarters. All right, today's Bickley Blast brought to you by my great friends at Chapman BMW who make luxury attainable. Find them online at chapmanbmw.com.
Good. Yeah, I think, you saw him, again, at times, and some of it is not the memorization, some of it is the pass rush, some of it is perceived pass rush. So you do get sped up at times in the pocket. I think every week we're going to talk to him, hey, you were really good here on these footworks, and you can see why it worked. And then, hey, sometimes you got away with it, and then other times it got you because you weren't quite in rhythm or you were a little sped up, and it affected your progression and things like that.
That's offensive coordinator Drew Petzing earlier this week. Lots of talk about Kyler's footwork this week and in recent weeks. In fact, I hear they're even making songs about it now. We just heard one. This is a fascinating study, and this is, I mean, there's no consensus. Obviously, we've talked about it for the last few seasons, how divisive a figure Kyler Murray is. But in reading your column on ArizonaSports.com about Kyler Murray, and you can read it right now, it is featured prominently on the homepage. Sometimes I go to the comment section. And I was reading one of the comments, and there was one comment that said, basically attacking you, saying, nobody wants Kyler Murray gone. And that, to me, is a person who's never talked to another human being about the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes,
Honestly,
yes.
I mean, legitimately, how could that be your stance on Kyler Murray? You haven't heard the other side, or you've refused to listen to the other side.
Right.
He still remains a divisive figure. I said on Monday's show, after a really, really bad performance by Kyler and the entire Cardinals team against the Rams, that I saw nothing that would convince me that he can be the franchise quarterback for a winning team moving forward. That doesn't mean that he will not be the quarterback next year. And as all of the emotion of the loss wears off and you look forward and you hear the comments and you hear the evaluation that's still going on, I agree with you. It looks very much like Kyler Murray is getting another year because of a number of different factors. They are working with him on his footwork. They will be able to supply him with a legitimate number 1 receiver next season, something he hasn't had to work with at all in his 3 starts this year. And how many times can a franchise go to the quarterback position at the top of the draft in that short of a span? You can't do it. It just... Especially if you have somebody that is... Kyler Murray, I could say this, too, with all of the criticism I've given him. He is a top 12 to 15 quarterback in the NFL.
Those are the facts. Yes. And I do think that the fact that we are 5 years into this thing, the fact that it's been really rocky at times, the fact that his maturity level and the leadership, these have all been very legitimate issues. The fact that the previous regime might have run something of a covert smear campaign on them to cover their own backsides, which is very, very real. All of this stuff kind of has sunk his reputation here in the Valley. It kind of spiked after that first game back. And then the last two games have and I know I'm guilty of this too. Especially after the last game, I saw a lot of stuff in this last game against the Rams that looked way too much like the worst Kyler under Cliff Kingsbury. And I wasn't willing to accept that. And I thought to myself, maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe it's unfair to expect Kyler Murray to come back just smoking hot. Or maybe it is okay. But either way, I think this organization and this coaching staff thinks they can fix him. Now, as you and I have talked about a lot, football coaches always think they can fix somebody else's problem. They always think, that guy's half the coach I am. Let me have a crack at that guy. And that might be what the Cardinals are doing here. But if you look at Kyler Murray, there are some things that he can do to sort of to get over this proverbial hump, if they will. Walter Mitchell, who does a great job writing about the Cardinals for Revenge of the Birds, he made a point that I totally agree with. And that is Kyler Murray needs to really learn to step up in the pocket. And what Walter did, he put out these videos of Brock Purdy and how he seems to float to the left and to the right and just very nuanced footwork, really smooth footwork, finding and creating his own passing lanes. Kyler Murray needs to learn to step up into the pocket, keep his eyes downfield, and then when that middle is wide open, he needs to gash teams straight down the middle of the field, like Michael Vick used to do. You know what happens then? Teams don't really rush you that hard. They mush rush you.
Which we've seen in the past
as well. So a lot of this is incumbent on Kyler Murray, but I think it is fair to say that this organization is looking at him differently than the rest of the Valley, than a good chunk of the Valley is.
Yes.
Because I think a good chunk of because they weren't around for some of the bad stuff. They see the good stuff. They see the stuff they can work with, and like you, they know that he's still a 10 to 15 guy, regardless of what his flaws look like. You've seen some of the quarterbacks out there, right? I mean, the Browns are going back to Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco needs one win to join the 100-win club. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Something you just said really stood out to me, though, and maybe kind of spins this conversation to a different direction. And that is, we're talking about footwork. We're talking about Kyler learning a new offense.
Mm-hmm.
But you referencing what Walter Mitchell wrote about he needs to learn to step up in the pocket. Regardless of what offense you're in, regardless of whether you're under center or operating from the shotgun, regardless of whether you have your left foot or right foot forward, pocket feel is something that Kyler Murray should have down.
No doubt about it.
That probably, we had I think it was a social studies question about what concerns you the most. I'm changing my answer. That's what it is. Because you see how it seems easy when you see a quarterback do that.
Yes.
Climb up in the pocket.
Yep.
Clears your vision.
Yep.
Throw the ball down the field.
Yep.
That is not a strong suit for Kyler Murray. Is it tied to his height? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
But you would think that a guy with that disadvantage from a height standpoint would use all the tricks to clear up the vision. And that's one of them. And he does not have that, a real strong grasp of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and yes, and I think that is all very accurate. But here's what we don't see. We don't see Kyler Murray and what he's done being around. So this new coaching staff has seen him engage, seen him improve his leadership, seen him be available. So they have seen the growth in him on the daily, which we have not. We get to see the Sunday stuff, and the Sunday stuff ultimately really is all that matters. But if you're a coaching staff and you are actually trying to lay down a future, and look across the NFL, is there another team in the NFL that is so clearly in a full-on rebuild mode as the Cardinals? Is there another team out there that looks like they're in the mode that the Cardinals are in? To me, the answer is no. They're by far the team that is most in tear-down mode. To me.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina, you could probably put in that mix.
Because they're also looking for a new coach.
Yeah, I think they're even...
But they don't have their draft picks.
No.
Which the Cardinals do to help with the rebuild.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is no. I mean, I think at the end of the year, you're going to have some other teams joining that club. But
the Bears.
Right now,
Bears.
yeah.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.